What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk about an older record by a group named 1241, who you might be thinking you've never heard of before, but actually you probably have, because they later went on to become BDP, as in Boogie Down Productions. Yes, Scott LaRock, Krs-One, a guy named Levy167, who I think was also on a couple of the earlier records like Advance, and probably the Celebrity 3 record, and then he went with them to B-Boy Records and he did a solo record there. But anyway, this is before all of that. This is their very first record on Sleeping Bag Records called Success is a Word. And you'll notice another interesting name on this label, Mantronix. So yes, Mantronix and BDP on a record together, but don't get too excited because it's really sort of kind of neither of their strengths and major inputs here. Mantronix actually just mixed the record. He didn't produce it, he didn't make the beat or anything like that. So, cool, he made it sound a little bit better, but, if you're a big Mantronix fan, you don't really want to get too excited about this. And BDP, they're certainly rapping on here, but they didn't write the lyrics. They didn't make the music either. Krs-One, you can barely recognize. I mean, I used to have this record on an old, not the song, not the record, an old compilation called Rat Pack, where Sleeping Bag Records, they did a couple of those albums. It was just compilations of everything on their label. Just Ice, EPMD, yada yada. And they had Success is a Word by 1241. And I had no idea it was KRS or Boogie Down Productions or there's any connection. You would never guess it. KRS-One sounds completely different. Just tonally, it's nothing like a BDP record. Again, lyrically, it's not their style at all. It just sounds like very old school, and which makes sense. 1985's got that kind of very program beat kind of sound. Kind of a chintzy record, kind of cool, kind of fun, but definitely nothing you would associate at all with BDP. It's almost like anti-BDP. But there's no question it is BDP. In fact, it's even turned up on a couple of those like later compilation albums like this one. Traffic put out in 2008 or 9 or something. This double CD. And then later on, Traffic put it out again and again and again. And by the way, sidetrack, but this album, since I've got it out, lists a whole bunch of songs like BDP Medley 7-11 as previously unreleased. Oh, big deal. Only available for the first time on this album. Not true at all. Boom, right here. Man and His Music by Boogie Down Productions, the 1988 version and the 1991 version, features all these songs. Almost all that previously unreleased stuff was previously released at least once, often several times. You should be able to sue an album that markets unreleased music as when it was actually previously released. But okay, anyway, I mean, you shouldn't really be able to sue them, but I'm just saying it's annoying. Moving on. So probably the most interesting thing about this particular record, besides the fact that it's just the very first record that you hear Krs-One's voice on, or BDP, or even Scott LaRock, he actually raps on this. But before, besides being the first, what makes it really interesting is that, rather famously, this is what set off the whole, the bridge is over, Queens, Krs-One, Juice Crew battle, that whole war, because this is a record that Krs-One took to Mr. Magic and Red Alert. And he dissed it, and actually when you hear it, you can understand why. Like, I've heard some other versions of it where they say, oh, he dissed, an early pressing of Poetry or something, and you'd be like, why would Mr. Magic diss Poetry? Poetry was amazing, it's still amazing, it's certainly amazing back then. This record, you can understand why they diss it. Like, I'm going to play you some clips in a minute, and you'll be able to hear for yourself, but this is absolutely, I've heard them kind of write this off as a joke record. In fact, I think if you read their official bio, they call this a joke record. It's not a joke record. The lyrics are serious. It's straightforward. It's not serious Melly Mel the Message, hardcore serious, but there's nothing jokey in here. The only thing that's jokey in here is that it opens up with a little bit of Gilligan's Island. It uses the instrumental in their theme, and then somebody even does an impression of the skipper talking to Gilligan. You say, well, that's okay, that's totally a joke record. But really, you got to remember, this is 1985, and everybody was doing that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, from kind of, semi-jokey records like the Cartoon Crew, but guys like Fresh Gordon, dates all the way back to the Sequence doing, commercial jingles in their performances and all that. That was just the move, was to use TV themes. In fact, it kind of came back later in the 90s with High Tech and Lord Digger, but that's a whole other thing. But back then, everybody was doing this. Think of the Showboys, they used Inspector Gadget in their music, and that was a hardcore, serious record for, 1986, and a major record. So this is just like that. It's just like using the little Inspector Gadget theme in the music. This uses Gilligan's Island theme in the music. And yeah, that's really super corny, and again, totally sets up why Mr. Magic would diss it. But once they get rapping all, they're not joking. The song is called Success is a Word, and actually the one thing that this does connect to BDP is that it has a serious message. It's all about working hard and achieving success. I mean, it's really kind of simplistic, it's really kind of hammy, but it's a serious message rap. It's like after school special message as opposed to hardcore street message, definitely not in the vein of BDP kind of stuff, but it is a message rap and definitely not a joke rap. And one guy's name who shows up pretty big on this label is Kenny Beck. It's big in there. It's there in the writing credits. In theory, that's all it is. It's just parenthetical underneath the title, but it's way huger than the production credits and everything else, which is not usual for record labels. But he did also produce it with another guy named David Ang on Sleepless Records. Again, Mantronix just mixed it. So it's totally not in the KRS-One Boogie Down production style at all. It's very much like each one kind of says a word back and forth or a phrase back and forth. So it's like, like Kid and Play used to do and all that. So it's not like one verse by KRS-One, one verse by Levy 167. No, it's back and forth, back and forth. So there's a couple versions on here. The Success version, which is the main full-length version, which is like 5.5, 6 minutes. There's a shorter radio edit that on the instrumental is on the B-side, and also a dub mix. So basically really just one song, one version of the song, the long one and the short one. Again, it's not bad. Like, if you don't come in with any BDP expectations, if you come in, looking for another poetry or something, forget about it. But if you just kind of come in, oh, this is a kind of funky 1985 Sleeping Bag Records kind of record, what's it going to sound like? It's not bad. Again, it's chintzy, it's got, Gilligan's Island on it. Once that's gone, it's more of just kind of a straightforward, very kind of lighthearted, poppy kind of record. So you can totally see why Mr. Magic, again, who's going to come out with, like, Kill That Noise by MC Shannon, that kind of stuff, is like, we're not playing this. But on the other hand, it's not a terrible record. It's actually kind of a fun record. I mean, don't pay a lot for it. And you won't have to. It's very easy to find. It's all over the place, super cheap, which is about what it's worth. And really, probably now, its value is just a sort of a historical item. Like, oh, here's the very first KRS-One. That makes it interesting. But, it's not a terrible record in its own right. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just nothing to get excited over. So let's jump into it right now. Success is a word by... Actually, that's one question I do have. 1241. What does that mean? Why did they call themselves 1241? What is that a reference to? I have no idea. It's not clear in the song. I mean, maybe it's an obscure reference I'm just not getting. If anybody knows, I'd love to know that. What does 12... It's like a time. It's 12:41. Like, mid-afternoon. So anyway, success is the word. Here we go. I mean, this actually kind of sounds more like a mix of like Bad Boys and K-Love and that, Lifestyles a Rich and Famous record, which I think Kenny Beck actually also produced. But here, check it out.
Hey, Gilligan, my boy. Success is a word. To be a successful